The rainforest at midnight was alive with sound and shadow. Under a full moon's pale glare, the giant ceiba and kapok trees of Selva Verde rose like ancient pillars, their knotted roots clawing at the earth. A chorus of insects droned above the leaf litter, punctuated by the distant call of a howler monkey and the soft splash of a caiman slipping into the river. High in the branches, Oriole the barred owl perched motionless on a broad limb, her mottled plumage blending perfectly with the mottled bark. Each breath she exhaled formed a tiny cloud in the cool night air. Oriole had claimed this forest as her domain for many seasons, learning its every secret. She knew where the jaguars slipped through the undergrowth, where the tapirs came to drink at dawn, and which gnarled vine concealed a family of coatimundi. Tonight, however, her sharp ears picked up a sound beyond the usual symphony, a low, mechanical whir and the muffled crunch of boots on fallen branches. Below, near a cluster of giant heliconia plants, a pair of flashlights bobbed through the underbrush. Intruders. Perched 20 meters above, Oriole watched as two men moved cautiously, axes strapped to their backs and canvas sacks thrown over their shoulders. They spoke in hushed tones, words laced with avarice, because at dawn, one whispered, as he knelt to examine a freshly set snare. The other laughed softly, no more than a cruel hiss in the dark. Oriole's golden eyes narrowed. Poachers had come for the scarlet macaws, prized for their feathers, and perhaps for the jaguar cub rumored to prowl these parts. Steadying her wings against the gentle sway of the branch, Oriole plotted her response. She would not let these men desecrate her forest. With a slow, silent spread of her broad wings, she launched into the moonlit sky. As she swooped down, the lantern beams caught her silhouette, majestic, ghostly, and the forest itself seemed to hold its breath. Perched on a rotten log just beyond the poachers, Oriole let out a single, resonant hooting that rolled through the trees. The sound echoed unnaturally against mossy trunks, unnerving the men. Their heads snapped upward, they staggered backward, wire snares jangling from their backpacks. Before the poachers could steady themselves, Oriole had vanished like a wraith among the branches, her mission clear, to guard the canopy and outwit those who preyed on her world. In the wake of her departure, the forest exhaled a blanket of rustling leaves and distant calls reclaiming the night's sacred hush. Oriole slipped through the midnight canopy like a living shadow, her silent wings skimming the humid air. Beneath her, the understory pulsed with life. Glowworms dripped like liquid stars from broad banana leaves, and the soft susurration of orchids brushing one another whispered secrets of the night. But the forest's enchantment was laced with danger. The poachers' lantern beams had carved bright scars through the darkness, revealing their ruthless intent. Following the flickering lights, Oriole descended toward a tangle of strangler figs and lianas draped in moss. The poachers moved in deliberate, careless steps, their boots snapping twigs and crushing mushrooms. Ahead, the first trap glinted in the lantern glow, a steel snare loop hung from a low branch, poised to tighten around the leg of any bird foolish enough to wander close. Oriole perched unseen on a vine-twisted limb above, heart pounding with resolve. She waited until one poacher leaned forward to test the loop, then spread her wings and kicked a downpour of dead leaves onto his head. Startled, he staggered back, loosening his grip on the snare's anchor branch. The wire sprang free with a sharp ping, and the loop clattered to the leaf litter below. Before the man could recover, Oriole vanished into the gloom, her triumphant hoot echoing like a clap of thunder. Undeterred, the poachers pressed on, deeper into the forest's green maze. Oriole followed them through corridors of creeping ferns and towering buttress roots, noting each trap they laid. A second snare, this one baited with a swath of macaw feathers, awaited near a pool of moonlit water. As one poacher knelt, Oriole swooped low, her talons barely brushing his shoulder. He jerked upright, scattering feathers into the air, as the loop yanked itself closed around an empty branch. The men cursed into the night, but Oriole was already retreating, drawing them toward the heart of the forest where vines formed natural tripwires. There, she worked her greatest mischief, perching on a heavy vine knot, she nudged it free with her beak. The next poacher to step forward fell sprawling into a concealed pit lined with soft moss. His lantern tumbled from his hand, its glow snuffed out in an instant. In the ensuing darkness, Oriole's final hoot rang out, a clarion call that signaled not victory, but the battle's turning tide. The poachers, disoriented and humiliated, stumbled back toward the trailhead, while the forest reclaimed its silence. High above, Oriole resumed her vigil, eyes gleaming with fierce pride. Though shadows still stretched between the trees, the night belonged to her, and every rustle of vine would serve as her warning to intruders brave enough to return. Oriole soared higher, her silent wings carrying her toward the ancient granite outcrops known as the Echoing Rocks. Below, the poachers stumbled from the tangle of vines and ferns into a sprawling amphitheater of boulders, giant, wind-worn stones stacked like the remnants of some primordial temple. Moonlight struck their smooth faces in silver patches, illuminating cracks the size of a man's arm and crevices deep enough to swallow footsteps whole. The poachers, lanterns bobbing uncertainly, paused at the entrance to this stone labyrinth. Each footfall echoed back at them in hollow, distorted tones: crunch, crunch, crunch. Their voices, once hushed, rose into an anxious chorus. Which way now? I thought the path was this way. Every question bounced off the rock walls and returned twisted, a cacophony that muddled their senses and frayed their nerves. Perched on a high ledge, Oriel listened. She had mapped these stones since she was a fledgling, each rock's resonance, each hidden passage. Now, she used that intimate knowledge to her advantage. From her vantage point she called out with a long, haunting hoot, imitating the alarm call of a peccary. The sound fractured across the boulders tenfold, rattling loose stones and startling a nightjar from its roost. The poachers, eyes wide, followed the echo as if drawn by a beacon, stepping deeper into the maze. Jagged shadows danced around them as Oriel led them on a twisting route. She guided a diverging party down a narrow corridor where two massive slabs leaned together, forming a claustrophobic tunnel no wider than a man's shoulder span. The lantern light sputtered against the slick walls, and the men scraped against flaking moss, cursing the confining passage. One reached for his knife to clear the way, but found the blade stuck fast in a tangle of rotted wood wedged between the slabs. Above that tunnel, Oriel flicked her wings against the rock, dislodging pebbles that clattered into the darkness below. The poachers stumbled back, jostling each other, as their distorted shouts reverberated through the cramped space. Back! Back, one commanded, but his words turned into a murmur that slithered aimlessly along the stone, offering no clear direction. When they finally clawed free into a wider chamber, the floor dropped away into a shallow pit barely visible in the lantern glow. The first poacher, searching for an exit, stepped forward without warning. With a soft thud, his foot slipped into the pit, twisting his ankle and sending him sprawling. His lantern clattered, extinguishing one of the flames and plunging the chamber into crescent-shaped gloom. His companion hissed in panic, but before he could help, more of Oriel's deceptive echoes called them onward, this time mimicking the distant crash of a falling branch. Driven by desperation, they climbed back out of the pit and raced deeper into the rocks, eyes straining for familiar landmarks that never appeared. Each wrong turn was met with another echoing hoot, another guiding echo of their own voices, until the forest itself seemed to conspire against them. Roots blocked their path, rocks teetered overhead, and the cold night air pressed in like the breath of an unseen beast. At last, as they emerged blinking onto a narrow ridge between two great boulders, Oriel let out a final, jubilant hoot, her clear notes slicing through the labyrinth's confusion. Startled, the poachers realized they had circled back to the edge of the echoing rocks, mere meters from the safety of the main trail, yet so tangled by Oriel's riddle that they dared not return the way they came. With shaking hands, they turned away from the forest's heart and fled, following the soft glow of camp lanterns whose echoes now guided them home. High above, Oriel landed on a broad stone, her feathers fluffed against the cool air. The echoing rocks fell silent once more, and the forest exhaled around her, a quiet tribute to the owl who had outwitted intruders in a realm of echo and stone. There, beneath the silver moon, she resumed her vigil, ever watchful, protector of the canopy and its untold mysteries. The night air grew thick with damp warmth as Oriel glided to a low perch above a gnarled hollow log. Below, two poachers closed in on their final prize, a young ocelot, trapped within the narrow cavity, its golden eyes wide with terror. The men's lanterns cast wavering beams across rippling leaves, illuminating the animal's mottled coat and quivering whiskers. One poacher knelt, rope in hand, ready to bind the struggling cat. His breath came in ragged gasps, each exhalation fogging the air, and every heartbeat echoed like a drum in Oriel's keen ears. Oriel's talons tightened on the rough bark. She knew this moment must be decisive. A single misstep could seal the ocelot's fate and embolden the poachers further. With silent deliberation, she spread her wings and launched into action. Above the log, an ancient limb, thick as a man's torso, arched precariously from a neighboring ceiba. Oriel swooped past it and, with a precisely aimed jab of her wingtip, nudged a loose vine wrapping the branch's base. The vine slipped free, and the branch groaned as it weakened at the hinge. Below, the first poacher crouched to secure a noose, the lantern's glow glinted off the coil of wire. Oriole retreated into shadow, heart pounding. A hair-raising crack split the night as the branch gave way. Wood crashed onto the forest floor mere paces behind the poachers, sending up a cloud of dust and shattered bark. The log trembled under the impact. The poachers whirled, eyes wide, stumbling over each other to put distance between themselves and the falling timber. At Oriole's sharp hoot, the rainforest erupted. Howler monkeys bellowed their alarm from the canopy, deep, resonant roars that shook leaves from their perches. Toucan pairs erupted in cacophonous squawks, their brightly colored bills cutting through the darkness. From the trees above the poachers, capuchin monkeys rained down small fruits and pebbles, their lithe bodies flitting between branches in a coordinated assault. The very earth seemed to rise against the invaders, vines lashed their boots, roots tripped their steps, and the underbrush closed around them like grasping fingers. In the midst of the chaos, the ocelot seized its chance. It darted from the hollow, sleek and silent, weaving through moonlit trunks to freedom. One poacher lunged, but tripped as a vine looped around his ankle, sending him crashing into the leaf litter. The other staggered backward, lantern toppling and extinguishing in a hiss of hot air. Oriole soared above the scene, wings beating a slow rhythm of triumph. In the dim aftermath, only the panicked rustle of fleeing poachers and the triumphant chorus of forest creatures remained. Seconds later, the sharp crackle of radio static heralded the arrival of wildlife rangers, guided by earlier alerts. Torches bobbed through the trees, and uniforms glinted as the rangers moved in to secure the injured men. Perched once more on her kapok limb, Oriole watched the rangers lead the poachers away. The forest exhaled in relief, cicadas resumed their night song, frogs croaked in harmonious counterpoint, and a solitary owl's call answered Oriole's own. Beneath the silver moon, the canopy stood restored, its silent sentinel sovereign once more. As the first pale light of dawn brushed the horizon, Selva Verde stirred from its nocturnal slumber. Mist rose in silvery veils from the forest floor, curling through the broad leaves of heliconia and clinging to the petals of ghostly white orchids. Oriole swept in on silent wings, settling on her favorite kapok limb where her mottled plumage blended seamlessly with the dawn-kissed bark. Below, the undergrowth shimmered with dew, each droplet catching the emerging light like 1,000 tiny stars. On the forest floor, wildlife rangers moved among the giant buttress roots and fallen logs, carefully dismantling the snares Oriole had disabled. Their soft voices carried gratitude as they released a stunned ocelot back into the undergrowth, its muscles rippling beneath newly freed limbs. Nearby, a trap set for macaws dangled uselessly, a pair of scarlet feathers lay scattered on the soft earth, a silent testament to Oriole's midnight interventions. Rangers recorded the cleared locations in their logbooks, then paused to watch as capuchin monkeys darted down from the canopy, inspecting the hunters' discarded traps before chattering away into the trees. High above, Oriole raised her head and let loose a single, clear hoot, a call of assurance that resonated through maple and fig alike. Almost at once, younger owls answered from hidden nooks, gentle bleats and soft whistles that multiplied into a dawn chorus. As each owl joined the vigil, the forest's heartbeat grew steady and strong. In that chorus, Oriole heard the promise of another night kept safe, another cycle of life left undisturbed by human greed. With the sun's golden rays penetrating the treetops, the rainforest came alive in vibrant color, emerald fern fronds unfurled, toucans resumed their bright morning calls, and tree frogs began their lively songs. Oriole ruffled her feathers, basking in the warmth and the collective sigh of relief that swept through the canopy. Below, a family of peccaries emerged to forage at the water's edge, and butterflies drifted in lazy spirals through sunlit clearings. Perched in the gentle glow, Oriole reflected on the night's trials and triumphs. She had outwitted traps, confounded poachers, and rallied the forest's own defenders, mammal and bird alike, to preserve the delicate balance of Selva Verde. As the day unfurled, she stood vigilant still, a steadfast guardian whose watch would never wane. In the hush of dawn's gentle vigil, the rainforest whispered its thanks, and beneath the rising sun, life pulsed anew, safe, free, and as wild as ever.